time we'll be looking at economic systems. We have learned earlier that the resources we have as a society are limited in relation to our needs and wants. As a result of that, we have to find a way of using these resources in such a way that we can derive the maximum satisfaction from them. In other words, our resources should be used in such a way that we can solve as much of our problems as a society. Now, the questions that confront society is how should these scarce resources be used in order to satisfy our numerous needs and wants. So in an attempt to answer this question, society has come out with two main approaches as to how economic resources should be used for the benefit of mankind. One approach is what we call the capitalism, and the other one is socialism. The whole idea is to the systems seek to provide answers to the three main fundamental questions in economics. One is who should own the means of production, and for that matter, undertake the task of production. The economic resources we talk about who should own them and who should use them to produce goods and services for our benefits. The second question is what goods and services should be produced for the good of society, and the goods produced, how should they be allocated among the members of society. So in an attempt to answer this question, three questions, two main economic systems have been proposed. So the two main systems we have are the capitalism and socialism, and the combination of the capitalism and socialism is what we are calling the mixed economy. So fundamentally, we have two main opposing views as to how society should manage its scarce resources. So let's take a deeper look at capitalism. Capitalism is an economic system where economic resources are supposed to be left in the hands of private individuals who should use these resources to produce goods and services. So this system is variously referred to as the market economy, the free market economy, the price system, or the price mechanism. The bottom line over here is that production, distribution should be left in the hands of the private sector. Individuals should own economic resources and you decide what to do with them. That is the idea behind the capitalism. So in a capitalist system, individuals are free to do whatever they want to do as long as you are operating within the law. Nobody decides anything for you. So in a capitalist system, firms decide whom to employ and what to produce. When they employ you, they will determine what to do with you. Then households also decide which firms to work for. That is, as a student, you finish your school or where you are currently, nobody decides for you where you should work. It is up to you as an individual where you think your skills and your time can best be used. These firms and households interact in the marketplace where prices and self-interest guide their decisions. Yeah, it is very important to note that in a capitalist system, markets coordinate the activities of firms and consumers. Let's say you want to buy a product, and assuming that there is no market, then a firm also has produced a product looking for somebody to buy. You see, these are two people that have an interest, that have a common interest. I want to sell, I want to buy. When they come together, they will achieve their objectives. But if there's no market, these two people cannot achieve their objectives. So the markets play an important role in coordinating the objectives of both the buyer and the seller. And in a capitalist system, markets play an important role in this coordination. And it is in these markets that prices of goods are determined. And these prices of goods, in turn, allocate the scarce resources in the economy. Uh, United States is one of the countries, or is the main brain behind capitalism. So countries that follow the United States are usually called the Western world. They believe in the capitalist system of doing things, how resources should be allocated. This capitalist system is characterized by the following attributes. One, private property. That is, individuals are free to own property. If somebody works hard and earns income, he can decide to keep his wealth or his wealth in properties, and that person has uh, the exclusive right to the use of those properties. So in a capitalist system, private ownership of property is very key, and property rights are protected. That is, if you work hard and acquire property, the state will do everything to ensure that you alone has exclusive right to the use of those properties. Freedom of enterprise and choice. That is, businesses, people are free to go into whatever business they like, and individuals are also free to seek employment where they like. Self-interest is the dominant motive behind economic activity. That is, everybody is doing everything possible in order to enhance his or her own welfare. For instance, if you go to the market right now and you want to buy a product, as a consumer, your wish is to buy the product at the lowest possible price. But what about the person who is selling the commodity? He also wants to sell it at the highest possible price. So everybody is fighting for his interest. So in a capitalist system, self-interest is what directs people's energy as far as economic activities are concerned. Then competition, because the people are not forced into whatever they want to do. If you see an opportunity in an area, you are free to enter, as long as you follow the laid down rules. So there's a very high competition in capitalist systems, and when there is competition, the quality of products becomes better. Prices are forced to their lowest possible level, and at the end of the day, it's the consumer that benefits. Then the next one, reliance on the markets. As we have said, in a capitalist system, markets play an important role in resource allocation because they coordinate the activities of consumers and producers. Then the role of government in capitalist systems is limited. Essentially, the government is simply to make rules uh, to ensure the effective working of the capitalist system. That is the main role of the government. Government is to ensure that rules are obeyed. Anything that will ensure that this capitalist system works effectively, that is the role of the government. And the government is not supposed to play an active role in production and distribution of goods and services. Then some of the advantages of the free market economy, or the capitalism. Efficiency in resource allocation is one of the advantages of free market economy, because resources or owners of resources are free to sell it to whomever they like. They always like to sell it to the person who will give them the highest return. So in that case, you see that the resources are being put to the efficient use. Uh, it also promotes hard work since it is rewarding. One of the key advantages of capitalism is that it encourages initiative. and when you initiate, it comes with reward. So you can see the billionaires of the world, they are usually from the Western world, especially in the United States. Then consumers also choose what pleases them to buy. In a capitalist system, nobody decides for you what you should consume. You are free to earn income, and you are free to spend the income the way you like. So those are some of the advantages of capitalism. It also has its disadvantages. One is uneven distribution of national resources. Yes, that is one of the problems of capitalism. You see somebody very rich, whilst others are very, very poor. So the gap between the rich and the poor becomes widened. In other systems, you see that it's difficult to tell the gap between. It's difficult to tell who is the poor and who is the rich, because the distribution of income is quite fair. Then we also another disadvantage about capitalism is economic instability. Because individuals pursue their selfish interests, they really don't care about the bigger picture. Because every individual is pursuing his personal interest. So if I have to act this way in order to derive the best benefits, I don't care what happens to the society. I have to do it. So because people are free to do whatever they like, when there is a small problem, it quickly transmits the system. So there is that problem of economic instability. For instance, if there is war in the Middle East right now, you see its effect on the price of crude oil. And when the price of crude oil changes, people's investments will also change. So all those things will bring about economic instability. Then also one of the problems of capitalism is that it can produce negative externalities and market failures. Negative externalities is a situation where you see when economic transactions take place, they occur between a buyer and a seller. But these economic transactions can affect third parties who are not part of this transaction, and that is what we call negative externality. When an economic transaction between two parties ends up affecting a third party, then who has no interest in what is happening between the two uh, people transacting the business. For instance, if you go to, let's say, a nightclub, somebody set up a nightclub and he plays a lot of music in the evening, especially weekends. People go there to enjoy and buy, and they derive some satisfaction. The person who is also operating the place makes some money and he derives satisfaction. This business benefits these two parties. But those who live around the area, they are disturbed with loud music, which they are not directly benefiting from the business operating there. But at the end of the day, they are being affected by that activity. So those are the problems with that is the that is what is meant by the negative externalities. Then you also have markets. Sometimes the capitalist market fail to work. In some cases, the markets don't even exist for certain products at all. So the way we expect resources to be allocated, in some cases, they don't. The market doesn't even exist in the first place for the resources to be allocated. We'll talk about that later as we go along. So that is market failure. When the market fails to allocate resources efficiently and equitably, then we are referring to market failure. Then the other aspect of the economic system is what we call socialism or command economy. This is a kind of economic system where economic resources, and for that matter, production and distribution, are to be taken by the central planning authority which is essentially the government. So in a socialist system, the idea is that nobody owns anything. So all the economic resources we have belongs to all of us. So the one who is in charge of society, which is the government, would now decide how to use these resources to produce goods and services for the benefit of its members. So that is the idea behind socialism. See, the whole idea is that we want fair distribution of resources. You see, the one thing about capitalism is that because people earn based on their abilities, all of us are not equally endowed. Some people are so talented, like take Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook, or uh, Microsoft founder Bill Gates. These are very talented people, and based on their talents, which they have put to use, they have amassed so much wealth. So you see that people of such nature, they have billions of dollars as their wealth, whilst many people are also on the streets. So the idea about the socialism is that since we all don't come to this world with anything, what we have come to meet should be managed in such a way that it will benefit all of us. That is the idea behind socialism. And socialism is usually, in the past, it was championed by Russia. So countries that follow Russia, they are called the socialist countries. And you have Cuba, China, and even some countries in Europe like Romania, Poland, and the rest. They used to be uh, they used to be part of this socialism. So countries who follow Russia in the past in championing this socialism are usually called the East. So the West is capitalism, and the East is the those who believe in socialism. And you see, this basic idea of how scarce resources of society should be allocated has created this division between capitalism and socialism, and that is the basis for the kind of cold war between the United States and Russia, because countries who believe in capitalism want to follow the United States, then those who believe in socialism also want to follow Russia. Then, because there are two opposing views, then there is that tension between them. I must say that in the world in which we live today, there is nothing like socialism in its true sense. The socialism in Russia has collapsed in the 1980s. So now the world is predominantly a capitalist society. Let's look at some of the advantages of socialism. More equitable distribution of resources and income. Yeah, in a socialist system, the government allocates resources. So you don't have much control about what to do with your life. If you wake up, the government decides where you should work. And at the end of the day, they give you accommodation, the food you eat, and the rest. So you see that there is some kind of fair allocation of resources in a socialist system. Then there is also high stability and high level of employment, because government gives you employment, and use your man hours. There is high level of there is high level of employment, and there is high level of economic stability as well, because individuals are not going to respond to certain economic shocks. The central planning authority is the one who will manage everything. So since it is one person who is going to determine how to respond to those shocks, you see that the variability is smaller compared to a capitalist system where millions of people are taking decisions every day. Then capitalist system, because of proper coordination, there is accelerated economic growth, and a lot of efforts are also not duplicated. So elimination of duplication of effort, because there is a social planner who determines A, B, C, D. because it is only one person who is determining, or one body that is determining how things work in that society. You see that there is not too much duplication, unlike a capitalist system where everybody is free to do whatever he likes. So somebody is doing this, another person is doing the same thing, duplication of effort. But in a social system, because everything is planned, there is a limited opportunity for duplication of effort. The socialist system also has its bad side. One of the disadvantages is that self-interest motive is discouraged. See, it is this self-interest motive that promotes initiative and push people to do things for themselves, which at the end of the day benefits society as a whole. Look at Bill Gates. Nobody forced him to develop the Windows operating system that has made personal computers available to almost every part of the world. It is his personal interest he wanted to pursue, and he did that. So in a socialist system, because the government is what determines everything, individuals who have even nice ideas, motives to do things, they cannot, because you don't control the system. Everything is coming from somewhere else. Unlike a capitalist system where individuals are free to initiate their own action. Then there is also lack of competition, because everything is coming from a social planner, one person or one body determine everything. There is no competition among the economic actors in that country, and that has resulted in inefficiency and poor quality products. Because competition, it is competition that brings about innovation and invention, and these things bring about high quality product, low cost, and efficiency. So in the absence of that, there will be inefficiency and poor quality products. Consumers in socialist countries have limited choices when it comes to consumption, because you don't determine what to eat. The government has to give you what to consume. So there is limited choices available to the consumers. Then in those countries where there is overdependence on government, because everything has to come from the government. So the people depend on government for everything. The the next economic system, which is a mixture of the first two we have looked at, is called a mixed economy. A mixed economy actually is an economic system that follows the path of capitalism. But because of the problem of market failure, there is a need for somebody to intervene and make sure that things work. Because when market fails, resource allocation in that particular area doesn't exist. Let's take for instance, in a pure capitalist system, education is supposed to be provided by the private sector. People, individuals set up their private schools, employ teachers, then parents send their children, they pay school fees. Then out of the school fees, the school owners also pay the teachers and also make some profit. So education is supposed to be provided by the private sector. That is the idea behind capitalism. Now, if you come to in the real world, because of poverty and the way certain societies are organized, that kind of system is not possible. For instance, in Ghana, in urban areas, it's easy to establish a private school and get a lot of students to enroll there in order to give them education. But if you go to a village where many of the people are poor, they can't pay the school fees that private businessman will want to charge. And does that mean that such people should be left out of the education system, or they shouldn't be given education? No. So that is where the government comes in. So the government is providing things that the private sector or the market system is unable to provide. So a mixed economy is actually a capitalism plus socialism. Where capitalism has failed, then socialism comes in to solve that market failure problem. So in the real world today, we can say all countries are mixed economies. But even though they are mixed economies, they have their biases. Some are more towards the capitalism and others are more towards socialism. For instance, if you take China, China is it's a mixed economy, but most of the industries there are controlled by the government. So you can see that they are more towards socialist side. Then if you take a place like the US, Britain, Germany, and the rest, the private sector is very strong there. So you see that such societies are how private sector led. So they are biased towards capitalism. If you take Ghana for instance, we have both sides. Ghana is as an individual, you are free to do whatever you want to do, as long as you don't go against the law. You are free to establish the business you like. But the government also plays a role where the private sector is not doing well in that area. So let's look at some of the advantages of capitalism, mixed economy. Advantages of mixed economy. Issues of negative externality and market failures are addressed. Yes, because the government comes in where things are not working well. These problems associated with capitalism are addressed. Market failure and negative externalities addressed. So the economic volatility is also minimized because when the government feels that something is not moving right, the government intervenes. Let me give you an example. If you look at the exchange rate, that is the quantity of cedis we need in order to buy the dollar. Sometimes, if you leave it to the market, it can be so volatile, and when it is volatile, it will have effect on the living conditions of the people. For instance, if there is a bad news, and because of that, that has affected the foreign exchange market negatively, people it will create panic there, and that panic can send the exchange rate so high. And once that begins to happen, then price of goods imported into the country will begin to rise fast. And once price of goods begin to rise very fast, there will be inflation, and people cannot buy as much goods as possible as they used to buy. So their living conditions will deteriorate. But now, because we have the government playing a role in the economy, the Bank of Ghana can sometimes intervene when there is so much pressure there that will force the exchange rate to change. The Bank of Ghana can go there and sell foreign currency in order to stabilize the market. So we we so the mixed economy combines the advantages of capitalism and socialism, and that's away with the negative aspect of both systems. I think this should bring us to the end of this topic. So in summary, what we have learned in this first chapter is that as human society, we have numerous needs and wants that have to be addressed, but the resources we have are not enough. So society has to find a way, a mechanism of how to use these scarce resources in order to uh, in order for us to achieve these numerous needs and wants we have. So in an attempt to solve that problem, society has come out with two main approaches as to how that problem of scarcity can be addressed, and that is capitalism and socialism. As I've said, in the world in which we live today, there is nothing like a pure capitalism and pure socialism, but it's a combination of the two with their biases. Some countries are more towards capitalist system and others are more towards socialist system. For instance, if you go to the United States of America, the best universities are private universities. They are not public universities. So such a country is biased towards what? Private sector.